All right. Hello, class. I am Miss T, and of course, today we'll be going over silver, the Civil War. Okay. So the first thing I would do, of course, is ask my students, what do we know about the Civil War? I will call on a couple of students to see, where their knowledge is on the Civil War, and then I will tell them the Civil War was in the U.S. from 1861 to 1865, and it was about the controversy of enslavement, expansion, and rights. Okay? And so today we will continue to discuss our Civil War figures. Okay? And so one vital person that did an amazing deed during the Civil War was Clara Barton. And so today we'll be reading a story called Clara Barton, the Angel of the Battlefield. Okay, so before we start to read this book, I will ask my students, let's look at the cover. Okay, let's look in the background, and let's also look, in the front. And I want you guys to tell me what you see. And I'm pretty sure some students will say, well, I see purple. I see white. I see a lady just in the middle. Well, who's this lady? I see a red cross, and I see some type of wagon thing in the background. Okay? And so the next thing I would do is ask them to tell me some questions they have just off the cover alone. And I know one of the main questions that we'll have, of course, is who is this lady and what is this red cross that we see? Okay? And so after that, I will, of course, write their questions down on a piece of paper. And I will tell them that we will come back to those questions once we read the book. Okay? So I'll begin to read Clara Barton, Angel of the Battlefield. Young Clara. Clara Barton was born on Christmas Day in 1821. She lived in Massachusetts, and she had two older brothers and two older sisters, and they taught her many things. I will show the students the pictures, of course. One picture says Clara's older sisters taught her how to read. And of course, on the other side, we see a picture of Clara's home. Clara liked to help people. When she was 11 years old, her brother David fell off a roof. Clara became his nurse, and she stayed home from school for 2 whole years to take care of him. Okay, a fun fact during this time, Clara put leeches on her brother, and this was a common cure at the time. Wow, that's crazy, right? Leeches, like they suck blood. So somehow these I don't even know what they are. Are they bugs? These things healed people, and they healed wounds. Okay, the first picture I see says Clara taking care of David, and this is just an illustration. And then on the other side, we have David grew up to be a soldier in the Civil War. And that's an actual picture of her brother, David, that she took care of. At age 16, Clara became a teacher, and she taught in one room schoolhouse. I'm sorry. People said she had a special gift. She made her students want to learn. At the time, teachers would spank their students, but Clara never did. She was a goodie. She was a goodie. So inside the one-room schoolhouse, as you see in that picture, it looks like you have little kids, and we also have some big kids. So she was teaching all ages. Bless her heart. And the school where Clara taught, as you can see, it looks like it's just a small little school in Massachusetts. Nurse Clara. Clara was grown up when the Civil War started, and she wanted to help, and she took food and medicine to soldiers, and she got friends to send more supplies. A fun fact, this was Clara's office during the Civil War. Notice Clara's name on the sign. Clara helped a hurt soldier during the Civil War. And of course, right here we have an illustration of Clara helping a man, in need during the war. So, right here and there, I would ask my kids a question. I would say, wow, so Clara had two whole jobs. What were those two jobs? She was a teacher and she was a nurse. So she wanted to help people in any way possible that she could. Next page, Clara was brave and she went to many battlefields. Many soldiers were hurt or sick. Clara took care of them. And President Lincoln, the President of the United States, heard about her work and gave her a medal. Isn't that cool? That is so cool. A fun fact, Clara was called the Angel of the Battlefield. Hint the title. So I will tell my students, you see here, it says she was called the Angel of the Battlefield because of all those people that she helped during the Civil War. One picture shows the hurt soldiers that she possibly helped, and the next picture is an illustration of Clara receiving a medal from President Lincoln himself. Next page. After the Civil War, Clara took a trip to Europe. On her trip, she learned about the Treaty of Geneva. The treaty said how soldiers should be treated. Clara was tired and sick and went to Europe to rest. So you can see right here in this map, we have going from the United States, and she crossed the ocean all the way to Europe. I wonder how long that took. Maybe a couple of days, maybe even an hour. We don't know. The next picture says a group of men meet to discuss the Treaty of Geneva. So during this time, they were fighting for even the soldiers to be treated fairly. Okay? All right, let's go to our next page. Clara believed in the treaty, and she wanted the United States to sign it. And she worked for 10 years to make that happen. Clara knew this would help American soldiers. Fun fact, the red marks below are wax. Long ago, people would put wax next to their names on important papers, and they put their fingerprint in the wax. Pretty cool. And that particular paper is the Treaty of Geneva. And of course, a painting of Clara. Clara and the Red Cross. Hey students, you remember that red cross that we saw on the cover? Maybe we'll figure out what it is now. Let's see. In Egypt, Clara heard about the Red Cross. The Red Cross was a group of nurses. I hope everyone's listening. It said that the Red Cross was a group of nurses. They helped people during wars. And she wanted to bring the Red Cross to America. So only Europe had the Red Cross and all these wonderful nurses, but we didn't. One picture says the soldier in front of the Red Cross in Great Britain, a Red Cross ambulance in France, and a Red Cross carrying hurt soldiers during World War I. And if you look closely to this picture right here that we see, that's actually the background of our cover. Wow, I hope you guys are paying attention to this. This is good stuff. Americans did not think they needed the Red Cross. People said there would never be another war. But Clara said that the group could help with any kind of disaster. So here we have a group of Red Cross nurses and the Red Cross teaching volunteers how to care for the hurt and sick. And the last picture is Clara watching the nurses help a hurt soldier. So, these particular women did not only help on the battlefield, but they also helped with any type of natural disaster that was going on during that time. Finally, people agreed with Clara, and she started the American Red Cross in 1881. She became the group's leader, and the group would help in times of war and peace. And there is Clara writing on her desk there. And a fun fact, Clara was the president of the American Red Cross for 22 years, you guys. Okay? Clara led the American Red Cross. The group helped after floods and forest fires. The group also helped after tornadoes and earthquakes, and they handed out food and supplies. And here are some pictures of the Red Cross packing up food for people, and of course, the Red Cross helping after a flood in Mississippi. So it looks like their services were actually needed more than America thought. Clara died in 1912. But the American Red Cross lives on, and it still helps people in need. Thanks to Clara's work, Americans have help during hard times. Fun fact, you can visit Clara's house today. Of course, we know Clara is not here with us anymore, but they have preserved her home so that you could see how she lived in the 1800s. Isn't that cool? And of course, here we have a Clara Barton postage stamp. And Clara will always be remembered as the founder of the American Red Cross. She also has a monument. Isn't that cool? It's called the Extra Mile. And she definitely went the extra mile to make sure that everyone was taken care of. Okay? And here we have a timeline, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to pay very close attention, okay? So this is a little timeline of her life. It says that in 1821, Clara Barton was born in Massachusetts, and it goes all the way to 1912 when Clara dies at the age of 90. 90 years old. She lived to 90. Isn't that crazy? Okay, and lastly, Americans today. Today, many people want to help others like Clara did. They can volunteer and join the American Red Cross. Volunteers may get to help after storms, floods, and other disasters. And they may hand out medicine, food, clothing, and other supplies as well, okay? So, that is the end of our book, and today we learned about one of the most important figures, Clara Barton. She was what? A nurse and a teacher during this time, and she helped those soldiers in need. So, now I would go back to those questions that the students asked before. One being, I'm sure, who is Clara Barton? And the other one being, what is that Red Cross? And now we know that that Red Cross was, of course, a group of nurses that helped during war and peace. Okay? So, after reading our book and finding out why this particular figure was so vital during the Civil War, I will have my students go ahead and go to their seats and work on something independently. Okay? And so, what we will do is we'll go to our seat and get out our Chromebooks. And I would like for them to research a Civil War figure of their choice, of course, that they felt was vital during this time. And the next day they will present and tell us at least 3 facts about that person and what they did during the Civil War. It isn't a big assignment. Of course, like I said, just 3 facts on what they did and why they were important. And that would be the end of our lesson, okay? And that is it for me. And this was the story of Clara Barton. Okay, bye.